So the chef's knife that we're going to be working on today is not one that I built, but it is my favorite go-to knife when I'm at work in the kitchen. That is my Dalstrong Chinese cleaver. Now, unlike a lot of other cleavers, this is very thin. You use it just like a chef's knife, and it's my favorite. Great balance, great weight, large flat cutting surface, perfect for when you got to do a lot of garlic. Holds a killer edge. But the problem with it is that over the years, I think I've had this for 2 or 3 years, constant use, which also means that it gets sharpened fairly often. But what I want to fix is this primary bevel. Now, I haven't actually taken a whole lot of meat off of the edge. You just regular sharpening, you're only taking just a little bit off, just enough to get it razor sharp again. But hopefully you can see, I'll try to get a better shot, is that this bevel is actually only about 3/4 of an inch from the edge, and then it goes just into straight material. What I want to do is, working with measurements from knives that I've built, they just cut really well. I want to thin the blade out, bring that bevel much higher up on the blade, and then repolish it, re-etch it, and hopefully it turns out exactly the way I want it. It's be a little bit nerve-wracking, but it is my own knife, and I'm pretty sure I can pull it off. So let's head over to the workbench, get some measurements, figure out where we need to go and where we're at, and then we'll head into the grinding room. So the first thing I start doing is laying out a grid, and every intersection on that grid will be where I take a measurement. That way I can figure out where I need to remove material, figure out how consistent this grind is on the blade, and just start with a plan. I move over to the grinder to start slowly removing material, being very careful to keep the knife cool because it is already hardened, and I don't want to ruin that temper. Being very careful not to slip, scratch a part I don't want to grind. I move up the grits, and I am still being very careful not to remove too much material, taking measurements all the time, keeping it cool, and just being very careful. Getting real close to the end of the machine work. Final grit, getting ready to move on to hand sanding. This is my last chance to do any real heavy material moving, and it turned out great. Over to hand sanding, I progressed from 400 grit all the way to 2000 grit, and this is just cleaning up the surface, making it real shiny, getting ready to get that final polish on it. Move over to the buffing machine, using a wheel with black compound, remove any scratches left from hand sanding. Green buffing compound to remove black scratches, and white compound for the final bright shiny finish right before etching. I'm etching with pure ferric chloride, which I usually don't do, but I was really just trying to darken this up without adding too much variation in texture, keep it nice and smooth, and it really did turn out great. You can see it here after I neutralized it. Really made the pattern pop. Back to the white compound wheel, just polish it up, make it shinier. I start sharpening, going from a 400 grit stone all the way to a 10,000 grit stone. Working at a 400 grit stone, I very carefully start to establish my bevel and then work all the way up through the grits so that I can get a really fine cutting edge. over to the leather strap, get a final polish on that edge, and it is razor sharp. I'm super happy with how sharp it is. I'm loving the darker look to it. It's not a mirror polish like it was when it came from the factory. You can really clearly see the stainless sanmai construction. Love the texture of the Damascus cladding. I'm just real pleased with how this turned out. This is probably the world's softest tomato, and it cut right through it. And lettuce, because it was really the only thing left that we had in the fridge. But as you can see, just cuts great. Well, this knife turned out awesome. I am so excited about it. It just cuts so well. It looks so much better. I think I like the darker, shiny finish, and you can see so much more of the Damascus pattern than the original almost mirror polish from the factory. It sharpened to a wicked edge, and I already knew that it would, but that wasn't the problem. It was the primary bevel used to only go about that high up the blade, and it was approximately a 6-degree primary bevel, and now it comes all the way, let's see if I can see it, there it is, back to here, which makes it about a 2.2 degree primary bevel, and then I have the really fine secondary bevel right at the edge. And yeah, I am thrilled with this. I can't wait to get it back into the rotation of knives I use every day at work. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please leave a like down below. If you want to see more of what we're doing, go ahead and subscribe, and you can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Edge Normal Workshop. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one.